I'm hoping it works this time. But either way,
Yeah.
Jason, welcome
Yeah.
back again for the second time
Yeah.
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so one of the first things that I wanted to bring up is, so I know that you've started this new consulting business to kind of help out companies with their emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
But so I read somewhere, or at least I heard on another podcast, that you initially wanted to be a police officer.
Yeah. When I joined the military, I wanted to be a cop.
So what was it about being a cop that remotely drove you into that, if you don't mind me asking?
To want to be a cop.
Yeah.
Um, I always wanted to be in the military, and I think that was just kind of the next step is to help other people and be a cop, and that just seemed to be the next calling. So
So do you consider yourself to be, I guess, I don't want to say a servant leader, but someone that has to serve others?
definitely, yeah.
Definitely.
And that's when I do my motivational speaking, I talk about servant leadership, and that's one of my key topics is leading other people and leading for them, not for you, and not you know nothing I do is for me. When I
Yeah.
go to work, I don't do it to try to excel myself. Obviously, I do the best I can,
Of course,
but
of course.
I don't go saying, "Oh, today is all about me," um, and it's all about building up my team and making sure that they can be the best they can be, and hopefully, it's all about succession and making sure that when I leave, that somebody else can step up and step into my place. So
Actually, I listened to I think his name was Nick Berblin. I think that's his name. He's doing some crazy things over in the technology world, and one of his mission statements is, I'm not. He's like, we're on this earth for a short period of time anyway. He's like, so I'm not really focusing on me. His mission is to be a good ancestor. And
right,
so I'm like, and so what you just said, it kind of puts me in the mind of that, of really more so focusing on what you're leaving behind for others to kind of follow. I like that. I
yeah,
like that. I like that, Jason.
thank you.
So even in your younger years, have you always been that way, or is this something that kind of developed later on after the military and into your adult life?
A little of both. I was the oldest of three boys, and we had a single mom, so I kind of took that natural leadership role and kind of mentored my brothers, and
Mm.
I had to learn my own skill sets and
Yeah.
learn that from the guys she was dating at the time or who she was married to at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, I've always worked on that and tried to be the best leader I could for them, for those two.
But
They were 2 years. One was 2 years younger than me, and the next was like uh, 36 months or just under 3 years. But yeah, I did that, and then I went in the military, and they did their own thing, and the military just kind of reinforced everything and gave me the skills I needed to get out there and be a leader. And being a firefighter in the military just kind of reinforced that even more because you have that chain of command and that really regimented structure that's already inside another regimented structure. So
true, true.
it's really important. So but yeah, it's always
So
been something I do.
so when you do your normal speeches, is it always geared toward leadership or servant leadership, or are there typically other topics that you like to bring home for your audience?
No, I do leadership, general motivation. So I talk a lot about. Uh, I have a speech called God, Family, Country that I do. That's
Okay.
all about my faith and in my family, and then serving my country, and it kind of builds off the fact that I grew up, on welfare, on food stamps, single mom, oldest of three boys, and then I went into the military, served my country. Unfortunately, about 7 years into my tour, my youngest brother passed away in a tragic car accident. So I took that and kind of reinforced on my faith and went down and helped my mom and get her back on her feet. Um, but yeah, kind of going and all that. But yeah, I do the servant leadership, the motivation, and then I also do uh, preparedness, business continuity type stuff for groups that of entrepreneurs that have small businesses in the 10 to $50 million range annual, and I help them get their business continuity plans going, and what they need to do to make sure that they're there after a disaster happens.
So what is typically your biggest challenge when you're dealing with something like that? I mean, because I know the company that I've worked for, I know they've kind of gone through like a culture change. And anytime you're wanting to implement change, that can be some pushback over that. Like, do you ever have to deal with that? And if so, how do you navigate against that?
Yeah, there's definitely pushback, when you're implementing a new program. And basically, it goes back to education. On my end, I can educate that if we prepare, it's better because you can save money on the long term. And it's statistically, for every dollar you spend in preparedness and what we call mitigation, which is putting things in place ahead of time that will prepare you or mitigate against something that's a hazard in your area, you're going to save $4. So it's a $4 return on investment, basically. So for example, if you live in a flood-prone area, if your business is in an area you might get flooded, putting in some kind of flood protection, you're going to get that return back. So that's one way I do it for the leadership.
Okay.
But then on the employee side, the lower level, you've got to just reinforce that they're going to be the ones that are responding in the disaster, and it could be a tornado, and they've got to secure whatever building they're in, and so they're going to be the ones that are going to be telling these civilians that are shopping or whatever they're doing in the area, what to do. So it's almost a life safety thing, and you're going to be the one that these people depend on. So it's kind of putting that power on them and reinforcing that need for them to understand what's going on.
So now that's after you've gotten into the door and having to convince them. Now, what about prior to? I mean, because you have several people that are out here that doesn't even see the need to be prepared. And most people are not prepared or don't even think about it until the tragedy happens. So how do you get into that, or how do you get them to see that they even remotely need your services?
Unfortunately, I have to usually wait until something bad happens. I'm in the Dallas area, so we've got get massive influx of tornadoes.
Yeah.
And so usually after we get one of those, I get, a lot more phone calls than I normally do on, hey, what should we do for this? Or, what can we do to prepare for this? And that's how I kind of get the word out, I guess you'd say. But a lot of it's regulatory. I mean, if the company has any kind of oversight by any kind of government agency or regulatory agency, I kind of remind them, hey, you've got these bullets you got to meet on your annual review from this company or this agency. And it could be even something as little as a health code, a health commission or something like that. If you run a restaurant, they're going to want to make sure that your employees have the hazmat training and know what to do if they get some kind of chemical in their eye. So I'll just bring that up. Hey, when was the last time you looked at your plans or looked at your books for your chemicals that you have back here in the back of the kitchen? And they think, and they think, well, never. And so all it takes is OSHA or the county health inspector to come in and ask them that question, and they're going to have to close the door. And so I just try to be more of a consultant and I don't try to be a salesman. I'm not a salesman. So I just say, hey, I saw this, what do you think about it? And if they want me to help them more, then I'll go from there. But if not, I just say, well, it's on their end. So
you're not pushy about it whatsoever. No. You just pretty much letting them know the information is out there. I mean, that's commendable. I literally had a conversation with a young lady named Kylie earlier today during an interview with her. And she literally does sales all day long. And so I was just, trust me, that she's fine. Is that one of your kids? Okay. I love podcasting. I love podcasting.
Sorry, my neighbor's on their four-wheeler driving by.
Oh, I thought that was your daughter.
That's my dog.
My bad. bad. That's all
My,
hey, I don't do any editing, so I swear to you, this is going to be in
all
the
right.
show.
Well, at
Okay.
least you weren't talking about my cardigans.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh! Oh my! I am never going to live that down. He is still getting on me about that. And then shortly after that, I posted something about being Mr. Rogers, and he lit in on me. Oh, he lit in on me. Well, that's okay. I'm gonna take it. I'll take it. But speaking of hazmat, very few people know what it takes to be hazmat certified. Very few people understand what goes in to being hazmat certified. So when I say, for one, Jay, I have so much respect for you. I've done it in the airport. I was hazmat certified there at the airport with Masaba, who ended up being Airlink, some crazy. And even now, I am hazmat certified with a distribution center here locally. That crap is not for the faint of hearts. And so when I heard that you were once teaching the course, how the hell did that go over? How, like,
Yeah.
like, oh, most people do it because they have to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And here you are teaching it. Obviously, there's something I have got to know, like why, just why.
Yeah. So in the fire department, you can usually come in, you just be a firefighter, right? You ride the back of the truck. And then you have to decide what you want to do after that. Either a lot of guys do the medical thing, the EMT, paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to do that. And so I started in the hazmat side. So I learned how to play in the stuff first, put the suit on and play in it. And then I learned how to be the commander. And then I learned how to teach it. So I kind of just went up from there. And, I got to that where I was teaching those 40-hour classes and trying to get these guys certified. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you at least try to make the class fun? I mean, or was it just all serious, straight nothing?
No, I mean, there's parts where you got to be serious. When I talk about how to test for things and how to make sure that you're not stepping in something that's corrosive or something like that. But then I try to make it fun, especially when we get to the part where it's hands-on.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, you did a post, and I want to make sure I said this correctly, but it was a tweet last year sometime, and it stated that the world has too many problem finders and we need more problem solvers. And when I say I cannot agree with you more on that. So, and my question to you on that is, which I'm trying to do it with shows like this to show people that are simply like you, that are living your truth and being as authentic as possible. And in that, you're able to solve a lot of the world's problems. And so my question for you is, over your history, what has been something that you have either solved, or is it something that you are attempting to solve now that's a tough or I should say a main focus for you to kind of solve at this point?
Man, I remember writing that post. I remember writing that tweet because, even in the military, when I became I was a staff sergeant, and that's when you start getting into like that mid-level management, and people come knocking on your door and always complaining about something. And we always would tell them, well, bring me the solution, not the problem. And so that's kind of, it was on my brain that day. But yeah, I mean, I try to do that with everything, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. But
is there one that's had, I guess, the most impact on you?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Now you're supposed to be prepared.
Shoot.
You're supposed to be prepared. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. No. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, that's my job. I solve problems. So I was dealing with a customer recently, and they were getting not audited. They had a survey by the regulatory agency, and they got found out that they weren't doing their training correctly, and I basically wrote the whole course for them, and I didn't up my rate or anything, and it goes back to that, giving more than give my best stuff for free is kind of the way I go by, and if you follow Gary Vee at all, that's what
I saw that you were a fan.
Yeah. So, and it all comes back full circle, and you get what you give. So, but yeah, I've done that. Probably, some of the biggest problems I've solved are family problems. I'm in my house right now recording this, and we had to go through things, and we lived in a camper for 14 months while we were building the house that we're in.
Oh,
And
wow.
so lots of problems to solve there and things, but
for 14 months?
Yeah, 14 months.
Jesus.
Me and my wife, 2 dogs, and my daughter was just turning 2 at the time, in a 30 by 8 foot camper.
Okay.
So
I have more respect for you.
Yeah.
It is just my husband. Oh, and the dog. We do have a dog here, but she's like 9 pounds, so she wouldn't, bother us. But just being in a close confined space that long, I would go crazy.
Yeah, we thought it'd be 6 months, and that's what the builder told us would be 6 months. But we ran into problems, and of course we had to solve them. But yeah, right now I'm working on projects. I'm working on some, I call them tip sheets, but I'm running into these problems with the clients, and I keep seeing the same thing at different locations. And I'm like, well, you guys need a procedure. And I'm all about process, people, and performance. And that's my 3 metrics that I teach when I'm, meeting with clients. I say, you got to have your processes, and then your people that can do it, and then measure the performance to see how you're going to do. So if I go to 2 or 3 places and I see the exact same thing that's wrong, we got a problem. And so right now I'm working on what I call tip sheets to give to this client that they'll be able to roll out. And it's basically like a guidebook. And then these employees are able to kind of fall back on that. And, then if they have a question about these certain procedures, they're able to look them up. And and once again, going back to that, making things fun, it doesn't look like their standard policy template or their procedure template. The way I'm doing it, it kind of looks like a, kind of like a comic book, but it's more like it's colorful, and it has pictures, and it's not just a policy they got to read. And so for example, one of them's about fire pumps. That's my background in fire, and so I got actual pictures of, hey, this is what you need to look for, and this is what you want to fix, and this is what it should look like, rather than, hey, here's just the description of what it should look like. And so I go back to that. Everything's got to be firefighter proof, and so that's how I trained them, and I've been one. I trained them, and now I teach them. So I try to make it as good as possible.
Is it one that you prefer over the other?
As far as being or teaching?
Being, teaching, or training?
Yeah, I definitely. I've had opportunities to be back on the back of the fire truck, and I haven't taken them. So obviously, I like being on the other side. I like the schedule, 24 on, 24 off, or 24 on, 48 off. But I definitely am.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you didn't, that's some of their schedules. But
no, I'm shocked at the fact that you actually like that schedule.
Oh yeah.
The 24-20. Wow. Okay.
Well, it's nice because you get every other day off or 2 days off, and especially if you're running a business like I was when I started. It's nice because you're basically getting 2 days to work on everything. Whereas now I'm working on it, on after my 9 to 5, or do my side hustle thing. But yeah, it's fun. I like teaching, and so that's kind of how I got in my niche that I'm in. And
gotcha.
But yeah, it's just going from there.
So if someone wanted to reach out to you to get more information, or just to kind of ask a couple of questions, like how can they reach out to you? Like what's your contact information?
JasonMcClaren.info is the best one. That goes straight to my About Me page. It has all my social media links on there, and then my links to my other endeavors. And people can check me out and see if I can help them out anyway. Like I said, I'm always able to answer questions.
So I do have another question about, is it called Go Heroes?
Yeah.
Is it? So, okay, that I remember you talking about it. I think I don't know if you were on another podcast or not, but you were talking about how difficult it can be if something ever were to happen to one of them in their career, and they had to switch careers for whatever reason, and how difficult it can be to interview. So, how is that project actually going with you? Is it something you're still doing currently?
Yeah, okay, definitely.
So how is it going? And are you seeing some positive results from it?
Yeah, and that's kind of why we launched my podcast. I have is Leadership Loading. It's kind of to help all of them, military and police and fire is kind of what we do. And what we say any first responders, so if you're EMS and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, that's what they do. They get out of high school, they go to a fire academy, and that's what they do. They learn how to be a firefighter. But if you've only been in 2 or 3 years, you're still just firefighting, like I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Usually about that 2 or 3 year mark is when you decide what path you're going to take, if you're going to be the rescue guy or you're going to be the medic guy. Well, if something happens to you during that time where you can't be a firefighter, like say you like riding motorcycles and you get in a wreck and have a part of your leg taken off, obviously they're not going to be able to let you be a firefighter anymore. It's just one of them things. You need a full leg. Well, you've never been trained in anything else, and obviously you're not going to have probably gone to school yet or anything. Well, and the interview process is a lot different for being a firefighter than it is for a corporate job. Mm-hmm. And so we've kind of seen that trend, especially with police, fire, military, and especially the military getting out and their job in the military is not like anything else in the civilian world, especially if you're a guy that's, marching around with a gun in your hand all the time, infantry guy or something. Whereas mine kind of translated a little better. I was a firefighter, so I was able to translate that outside better. So there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of other charities, other nonprofits. The way we're doing it, though, we're trying to, give them a lot more digital resources because we know that they don't have time to go places most of the time. They don't have time to actually go sit down with a guy that's going to tell them, hey, this is how you write a resume or this is how you interview. Gotcha. So we're working on, resume templates. We've got some best practices on our templates that we use that I've got feedback from other resume writers that are like, hey, this is one of the best templates I've seen. I've never heard them say this is the best because most people say that. But, they're like, this is one of the best ones I've seen. And, it actually relays the information better. And then, doing mock interviews. Obviously, if I'm in Dallas area, so if there's someone here, I'll go sit down with them and do a mock interview. But just doing interviews like on the web or something like that to kind of get those questions out there that they're not used to answering. Tell me about the hardest time you've ever had to deal with another employee. Those sort of things. They're not used to dealing with those because they're like, I'm told to do stuff and I do it. And if I have a problem with my coworker, we'll suck it up while we're at work and we'll go hash it out behind the wherever later, But you can't say that when you're.
I was about to say, please don't say that in an interview.
Yeah.
Please
and so you got to kind of tell them that. So
I'm like, I would be the one you're sitting in front of me like, okay, well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah. and I've been on the other side, I've interviewed hundreds of people for jobs and I'm like, man, I really like you, but I just, you answered these questions wrong. And and when you're sitting on a panel with 2 other people that heard the same thing and they're marking on their little form 0 and it doesn't work out. So, but yeah,
so tell me about that just really quickly. So if someone needs assistance with that, do they just reach out to you and specifically? They just reach out. Go ahead.
Yeah, you go to goheroes.org, and that's our website. It's got all our programs on there. We do a couple other little things, but the career stuff's what we're really focusing on. We were doing charities, but now we kind of do the overhead for those for people that want to run like a 5K or do some kind of charity event for a situation that's going on.
You mean like a disaster or something?
Yeah, or like a Hero 5K type thing. Trying to think, like when the police officer shooting happened in Dallas, there was a girl that was selling. Yeah, there's a girl that was selling T-shirts. She made these T-shirts, and
gotcha.
She decided she wanted to sell them to raise money for the officers. Well, she's just doing this as a sole proprietor, and
gotcha.
And so we would take something like that, and we put it under our umbrella, and that way it's under a 501c3 and kind of manage the process for her. And kind of make sure that everything's legit and all that sort of thing.
So going back to the first responders, if they're looking for new employment and they go through the process with you, they come to you, they say, hey, this is what has occurred. Is there ever any mental assistance with that? Because I would imagine that if your dream was to be a police officer or any first responder, as you stated, if that was your dream and now you're being told that you're forced to go into a different sector, I would only imagine that mentally you would have to go through a reprogramming as well. So is that something you all assist with as well, and not just the interview process?
Yeah, definitely. We try to find something that relates to their skills. So like what I do now is I'm not a firefighter. I'm not really anything fire, but it relates to my skills as a firefighter, and I was able to use those skills to get into what I'm doing now. But yeah, so like if you're a cop, we'll try to, do something like security or corporate, property assessment, property protection, something like that.
Okay.
But we're gonna match it up with their skills. So if you were, we're not gonna try to put you in a entry level job if you were, something up higher. We're gonna try to find something that fits better, tailor that resume for that, and then also get you into those positions to where you can interview for those better jobs.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, Jason, I really do appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah,
Is there
thank you.
anything that we did not cover that you have to get out there right now?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, we covered it all.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, I love that. I love to hear that we did. So I normally hope for that. But for starters, I really do appreciate everything that you're doing on your side and your passion, obviously, behind it. And so I know we need more and more people, and I know you call them problem solvers, but realistically, we do need more and more people out there that are like that. So I'm really hoping that just your story alone and what you're doing, hopefully it does inspire someone else to at least get up and do or play their part with whatever problem they need to solve. So again,
definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.